We all say we want a better life. We say it in January when we make promises we already know we won't keep. We say it when we watch someone else succeed and feel that quiet sting of, why not me? We say it at night when the room is dark and honest, and no one is listening. But here is the thing nobody wants to admit. Most of us are not losing because we lack talent. Most of us are not losing because life has been unfair. We are losing because every single morning we hand our best hours to everything and everyone except ourselves. And the most painful part? We don't even realize we are doing it. Today's story is about a man named Thomas. A man so tired, so broke, so close to the edge, that most people in his position would have stopped trying altogether. But Thomas discovered something, a quiet, almost invisible secret, that the most successful people in the world guard like their most valuable possession. And he found it, not in a seminar, not in a book, not from a business course, but at 5 o'clock in the morning, while the whole world was still asleep. Stay with me until the end of this story, because what Thomas learned is not complicated. It is not expensive. It does not require talent, connections, or a single dollar you don't have. It only requires one thing, and that one thing is the hardest thing most people will never be willing to give. Thomas Menso was 31 years old. He lived in a one-bedroom apartment on the 4th floor of a building where the lift had been broken and nobody had bothered to fix it. He worked at a packaging warehouse, 12-hour shifts, steel-cap boots, a laminated name badge that he clipped to his chest every morning, like a small surrender. He was not lazy. That is the first thing you need to understand. Thomas worked hard. He had always worked hard. But hard work without direction, he was slowly learning, was like running fast in a room with no doors. He had a notebook on his bedside table, old, dog-eared, half filled with ideas, a business idea he had been almost starting for 3 years running. Every night he opened it, every morning he closed it, and went back to the warehouse. His mother called every Sunday. "Thomas, how are things?" And Thomas would look around his small apartment, at the broken blind on the window, at the notebook on the table, at the man in the mirror, who looked older than 31, and say, "Getting there, Mama, getting there." But he wasn't getting anywhere. And somewhere deep down, he knew it. There was a small park, 2 streets from Thomas's building, a rectangle of tired grass, 2 benches, and a single oak tree, thick enough to give real shade. Thomas passed it every morning, on his way to the bus stop, at 6:45, always rushing, always slightly late, always with yesterday's exhaustion still sitting behind his eyes. But one morning he noticed something. On the bench beneath the oak tree sat an old man, not noteworthy on his own, except for one thing. It was 5:15 in the morning. The sky was still gray. The street was completely empty. And this old man, silver-haired, straight-backed, with a thermos of something hot, and a small worn Bible on his lap, was sitting there, as if the world had been designed specifically for this hour, unhurried. Thomas almost walked past, but something made him stop. "You're up early," Thomas said. The old man looked up, eyes sharp, deeply unbothered. "I'm always up early," he said simply. "Sit down, son. You look like a man carrying something heavy." Thomas almost said he was fine. Instead, he sat down. The old man's name was Mr. Ellison, 74 years old, retired, former business owner, a man who had built 3 companies from nothing and lost one of them completely before he rebuilt again. Thomas found himself talking about the warehouse, about the notebook, about the business that never started, about the quiet, grinding feeling of watching your life stay exactly the same, no matter how hard you worked. Mr. Ellison listened, without interrupting once. Then he said something Thomas never forgot. The most dangerous thing a man can do is spend his whole life being busy and confuse it for being productive. Busy is noise. Productive is direction. and you cannot find direction. In a noisy life. Thomas stared at him. When does your shift start? Mr. Ellison asked. 7:30. And when do you wake up? 6:15. 6:30 sometimes. The old man nodded slowly. The way men nod. When they already know the diagnosis. That is your problem right there. You are giving the warehouse your morning, your sharpest hours, your clearest mind, and you are saving the scraps for the life you say you want to build. He leaned forward slightly. The most successful people I have ever known did not find extra hours in the day. They simply refused to let the day take the first ones. Thomas was quiet. Then Mr. Ellison said, I'm going to give you a task. It will sound simple. It is not. For the next 21 days, I want you to wake up at 5 a.m. Not to work immediately. Not to check your phone. Not to turn on the television. Just sit in the quiet with your notebook and write down one honest answer to one honest question. What am I actually building? Do that for 21 days without missing a single morning. Then come back and tell me what you found. Thomas frowned. That's it? Just sit and write? Mr. Ellison smiled. Most people cannot do it for 3 days. The silence is too loud. The honest question is too hard. Most people would rather sleep than face what the quiet reveals about them. He picked up his thermos. If you can do it for 21 days, you won't need me to tell you what to do next. You'll already know. The first morning was the hardest. Thomas sat on the edge of his bed at 5 o'clock in the dark and the quiet and stared at the notebook. The question felt almost too simple. What am I actually building? He wrote for 7 minutes. Then stopped. Then read what he had written. And felt something shift. Not dramatically. Not like a movie moment. Just a small, quiet shift. Like a door that has been stuck for years. Moving half an inch on its hinge. The discipline of the early morning is not about the hour itself. It is about what the hour reveals. Who you are when no one is watching. And nothing is demanding you. By day 5, he was writing for 30 minutes. By day 10, he had mapped out the first real structure of his business. Not dreaming, not hoping, but planning. Concrete steps. Real numbers. Honest timelines. By day 21, Thomas had something he hadn't had in 3 years of trying. Clarity. He went back to the park. Mr. Ellison was on the bench, thermos in hand, as if he had never left. Thomas sat down and opened his notebook. Showed him 21 pages of early morning honesty. The old man read slowly, turned each page carefully, then closed the notebook and handed it back. Now you know, he said quietly. Know what? Thomas asked. That the hour was never the secret. You were always the secret. The 5 a.m. just made you quiet enough to find yourself. Thomas didn't reply immediately, because for the first time in a long time, he wasn't confused. He wasn't searching for the next idea, the next motivation, the next push. He already had it. It was there, in the pages he had written. When nobody was watching, that same week, Thomas did something he had postponed for 3 years. He started. Not perfectly, not confidently, but honestly. He used his early mornings to build what his nights had only imagined. While the city slept, Thomas researched suppliers, made calls he used to avoid, learned skills he once thought were too complicated, and slowly turned his notebook into something real. The warehouse was still there. The long shifts didn't disappear overnight. But something inside Thomas had changed. He was no longer just working for a paycheck. He was building a way out. Weeks turned into months. The quiet 5 a.m. mornings became his most important meetings. No noise, no pressure, just clarity and action. His first sale came on a Wednesday morning, almost insignificant to anyone else. But to Thomas, it was proof. Proof that he was no longer stuck. Proof that movement had begun. He didn't celebrate loudly. He woke up the next morning and kept going. By the 6th month, his side business was no longer a side idea. It was paying him. Not enough to impress the world, but enough to change his decisions. Enough to give him a choice. And one quiet morning, after running the numbers again, Thomas made the decision that once felt impossible. He walked into the warehouse, looked at the place that had held him for years, and this time, it didn't feel like a cage. It felt like a chapter. By the end of that week, Thomas handed in his resignation. No dramatic speech, no applause, just a quiet understanding that the man who walked in months ago was not the same man walking out. He didn't leave because the job was bad. He left because he had finally built something better, and it all started in an hour nobody sees, an hour most people waste, an hour that gave him back his direction, his confidence, and ultimately, his freedom. Thomas didn't become successful overnight, but he became something far more powerful first, consistent and in control of his own life. And from that point on, success was no longer a question of if, only a matter of when. Thomas's story teaches us 3 things we must carry from this day forward. First, your morning is your most valuable asset. Protect it. Every hour you give away before you have invested in yourself is an hour borrowed against a future you claim to want. The world will always find a way to fill your time. You must decide to fill it first. Second, silence is not emptiness. It is where clarity lives. Thomas didn't need more information. He didn't need another course or another plan. He needed to sit still long enough to hear himself think. In a world addicted to noise, silence is a superpower. Third, small disciplines build extraordinary lives. Nobody saw Thomas at 5 a.m. Nobody applauded him for opening a notebook in a dark apartment while the building slept. But those invisible mornings became the foundation of everything visible that followed. Success is not built in the spotlight. It is built in the quiet hours that nobody photograph. Think about your own morning honestly. What happens in the first hour after you wake up? Who gets it? Your phone? The news? The noise? Or yourself? You do not need to wake up at 5 a.m. to apply what Thomas learned. You need to find your quiet hour, whenever it is, and protect it like it is the most valuable thing you own. Because it is. It is the hour where the person you are becoming is either built or abandoned. Every single day. The question is not whether you have time. The question is, what are you doing with the time you already have? Now I want to hear from you. What time do you wake up? And what is the first thing you do with that hour? Tell me in the comments below. Be honest. Your answer might be the mirror someone else needs today. If Thomas's story moved you, please like and share this video, and subscribe to Story by Areebs for weekly stories that don't just inspire you, they build you. Until next time, protect your mornings, honor your quiet hours, and keep moving forward in life.